by my clock on the wall, it is the top of the hour. We'll allow just another minute as folks are gathering quite rapidly still. Well, greetings and welcome to our webinar time slot today. I'm excited to be able to host along with Elizabeth Stewart today our engagement with Jason Geddes. We'll introduce him a little bit more deeply in just a moment, but just wanted to start by sharing with you that administratively we urge you to pose questions in the chat. There are a number of folks that have joined us today, and we want to be able to answer your questions. And if for some reason we don't get to them or address them during our time together, we'll sort of rip your name and title away from your question and respond to all who have joined us today with the question and then an appropriate response. So we really do want your questions. There'll be a little question and answer time at the end. We'll look to that chat area to provide that. Before we get too deep here in our interview time, we want to make sure that we offer our thanks to the United States Department of Energy, both the Federal Energy Management Program and ERE's Weatherization and Intergovernmental Programs Office that both develop and deliver targeted technical assistance and strategic initiatives to federal, state, and local government offices supporting energy efficiency. And finally, and certainly not the least of which, to Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, whose skill and abilities have given us the opportunity to offer a free and vital resource for you, and their flexibility in actually allowing us to help customize what was a federal tool for use in local units of government, including certainly cities, counties, schools, and higher ed. Lots of information about those tools, if you will. And as a secondary point, I just want to skip forward a second and say there are also some helpful resources links here. We're going to send these slides out at the end, so there's no point in you trying to jump to them right now, but Performance Contracting National Resource Center continues to have really key things added to it that are very, very helpful. And then as the Energy Services Coalition, we're proud to be able to offer something called GESPCU, the University of All Things Guaranteed Energy Savings Performance Contracting. When you find those podcasts, I think you'll find that 60, 70 years of experience are poured out for you in little snippets. And then certainly the URL there for eProject Express, which is a part of what we'll be speaking about. So your speakers for today, well, I'll start with me at the bottom there. My name is Dale Haas with the Energy Services Coalition. And the bottom line is, I've come to say it this way. I've had the pleasure to work in with our 44 of the 50 states in America. That provides me with a little bit of hands-on experience with energy savings performance contracting. Learned a lot, helped others learn a lot about what can be standardized and how to apply and leverage smart tools and resources. So that's enough about me. Liz Stewart, which has been a remarkable asset to the industry in supporting the growth of performance contracting in a host of ways as a program manager. Liz, want to tell a little bit more about yourself?
Sure, thanks, Dale. So I've been at Berkeley Lab for about 13 years, and my focus has been on research and technical support in the areas of energy efficiency, demand response, and a lot of my research is focused on the ESCO world. ESPC project analysis, market analysis, etc. And I also do a lot of work on eProject Builder, leading up the development and other things, and helping Dale, our training partner, with the trainings. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you, Liz. And finally, and perhaps most importantly today, we're joined by Dr. Jason Geddes, who today works for the Washoe County School District as the Energy and Sustainability Manager, where he develops and implements and maintains energy conservation and sustainability programs. Yeah, we have listed there, which is a little bit odd, his former role as the Environmental Services Administrator for the City of Reno, because a lot of our discussion today on behalf of those municipalities that have joined us is about that work in the city. But certainly he brings to us a wealth of experiences and expertise. He's also in the past served as the Senior Petroleum Chemist with the Nevada Department of Agriculture and the Environmental Affairs Manager at the University of Nevada, Reno. Jason is quite educated. He has a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry, which if you haven't fulfilled a few of those courses, well, you've missed a grand opportunity, and his PhD in Environmental Chemistry from the University of Nevada, Reno. Jason, anything that I missed that you'd like to add?
No, other than, I was a state assemblyman and helped craft the performance contracting laws in the state of Nevada in 2003. And then I was able to use them at the City of Reno and at Washoe County School District in 2008 and 2015. So that's all I would add to it.
An excellent point, having the ability to be a policymaker and then to live under the benefit of that policy. Glad you added that for our audience for sure. So we are excited to be able to engage Jason. And just so that you know, I asked his specific permission to call him Jason instead of Dr. Geddes, because surely he's earned that, but he agreed. So the other thing that we know that he's done, and it'll sort of get embraced into some of our questions here as we move along, is that, gosh, I was just ever so impressed with Jason's ability to really engage a host of grants and incentives to leverage lots of pieces and parts. And I think that's one of the things that we've all learned across the nation is if we can figure out how to leverage all the tools, resources, incentives, and grants, well, then we actually get the most done. We've provided for ourselves the best role of stewardship. So Jason, since much of our focus today will center on the work when you were able to complete at the City of Reno, what again was your role there or job description? How would you describe where you fit in the City of Reno?
Well, as the title says, I was the Environmental Services Administrator for the City of Reno. And I'm just going to pause here for a moment. I just had some dental work, so I'm going to slur a bit. So I apologize for that right now. So if I sound weird, I apologize. They created the position of Environmental Services Administrator, which was basically the green czar, after doing an evaluation of what they were doing at the city and what they needed to be doing for sustainability. And then I got the position of the green czar. And one of my primary goals when I stepped in was to deal with our energy efficiency and renewable energy issues stepping into the role. And we had a few projects that were sitting on the shelves. The biggest problem that we had coming in was, no funding. Basically, it was 2008. The economy was tanking, as you all know, of the Great Recession. And we were in a position where we had purchased a old building in downtown Reno that had old equipment in it. And the primary driver there was we spent 3 years trying to get HVAC upgrades for the facility. But it just wasn't in the budget with the way the economy was going down, where the city wouldn't approve it. So we ended up in the position of shutting down City Hall, which is a 17-story black building right on the river in downtown City of Reno. And we just, we'd spent 3 years trying to get funding to fix it, and we couldn't get it. So we turned to the ESCO model, and we went out and did our bids and found somebody who could implement a project so that we could do our repairs and upgrades to that facility as well as citywide, looking at it. And we ended up, I think, with 51 facilities that we ended up upgrading. But, and all of so of the 17 stories, 6 of them were sublet to accountants and attorneys mainly. And we had to shut down the building on several occasions at 10 a.m. because it just got too hot. And our HVAC system wouldn't work. And as you all are probably aware, attorneys don't like being told that they've got to get out of their office and leave the building because we can no longer cool it. So that was the impetus that really got the city council and administration to say, yeah, go ahead, move forward with this project. So then we did our RFPs, found a contractor, and did our citywide audit, and then started putting together our citywide project.
And so, Jason, just a couple of things there. It's sort of the worst of all scenarios, right? No money, failing systems. And I think you sort of touched on this, but just for our audience, I want to make sure that they understand as the greens are. And while you had occupants in the facility that probably were quick to announce their concern, who were you actually reporting to?
I was reporting to the city council through the public works director. And I'll tell you, we have a mayor and 6 council members, and all 7 of them were very supportive of all of the work that we ended up going forward with, because they saw the end goal. And part of it was kind of the messaging that we did, that green is green, that if you let us do this green environmental work, we'll both accomplish your goals of environmental conservation, energy conservation, carbon reduction, and save you money. So that was kind of the green is green motto that we went to. And every time I went to the city council and the mayor, every vote was 7-0. They were just 100% supportive.
You make a great point. Part of the role that probably wasn't in the job description as greens are, as you put it so eloquently, was the sales role of being able to really persuade or educate 7 city council people on what you're thinking about doing, its benefit and its long-term impact. Many of our attendees today in that same spot. And what you summarized there is really important, that it touched all those different bases: environmental stewardship, energy efficiency, and frankly, even the economic or the fiduciary responsibility. We've often said you can either put money back in the utilities pocket, or you can use it to improve your investment. And you became a master at improving the city's investment. We really appreciate you sharing that. So you'd gone through this RFP, you'd found somebody, you knew you were going down the energy savings performance contracting, I think you called it ESCO model. And then lo and behold, you get American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds. So with that truck of money, if you will, why didn't you just stop the bus and spend the ARA money? Why'd you continue down the ESPC path?
Well, we tried to go as big as we could. honestly. I mean, the ESCO path for us was, as I mentioned, that the biggest project was the HVAC system in City Hall. But it was how we could leverage as much money as possible for the heavy metal projects based on some of the quick payback projects, like LED lighting. Although actually then we were not quite to LED, but except for a few examples, but it was seeing what available grants and state grants, federal grants, our monies were available so that we could maximize all of our infrastructure. Again, back to the heavy metal side of it. We replaced all the chillers and boilers in City Hall. But part of that was paid for by the citywide projects and then all the grants and rebates we applied for to offset the costs. So we hired an ESCO. They came in, they did an evaluation. We looked at how much money we could actually put on the table, and we ended up with a project that was just under $20 million. And then when the ARA money dropped, we went out and grabbed whatever money we could grab. So we had with the just under 20 million, we grabbed 2 million plus in energy efficiency conservation block grants, 150,000 in wind turbine generation rebates that the state had, 1.6 million in solar PV rebates that the state had, another 264,000 in energy conservation grants that the utility had, and then a $570,000 grant from our state energy office. And then with the balance, after taking in all those grants and rebates, we went into the financing side of it and grabbed qualified energy conservation bonds, 2.2 million, clean and renewable energy bonds at 2.3 million, and then the bulk was 10.9 million in recovery zone economic development bonds. And those three bond categories, their interest rates were all between 1% and 3%. So once we looked at our almost $20 million project, we took out all the grants and rebates, we looked at all the financing options that we had, and then we bundled those all together and then put those on the market to finance the entire project at a very low interest rate.
So I'm quite sure that our audience is ever impressed as we are how when somebody like me who's been around this industry for 25, 30 years talks about leveraging funds, you are the living example of really combining all these different incentives into the portion that could be paid for by savings to ultimately get a whole host of work done for the city. So you mentioned lighting and HVAC, other things that, and certainly some renewables now that have been added. Any other scope that it makes sense to list for our audience, Jason?
I mean, we looked at water conservation, but really it was the lighting and actually control systems that really helped us pay for the heavy metal work that we needed to do. Of that 20 million, 6.5 of it was in City Hall. So the bulk of it was fixing the HVAC in City Hall, but we replaced all of the lighting that the city owned. We upgraded all that lighting. We upgraded the lighting in our facilities. And we upgraded the control systems. And another big benefit of the control systems upgrade was that we tied everything into our central facilities office so that they could monitor all of our facilities. And in being able to do that, we gave all of our techs iPads, and we could dispatch them from site to site to site without having them have to come back to the office and get a new work order and then go back out into the field. Once they completed a job, they could hit a button, say we're done, and then we could send them to the next job without basically all of that downtime for travel, as well as the carbon footprint of them driving back and forth to the central office to get a paperwork order.
Wow. That's just a great success story in so many ways. So it's not only the fact that the HVAC heavy metal, as you mentioned, gets replaced, but you build in additional efficiency by managing through the controls how to dispatch appropriately those folks in the city from job to job. Really well thought out, comprehensive application of efficiency overall. So
yeah, and I'll just throw in one more. Is it was kind of tricky to get people, as most of you probably know, solar panels are always exciting. Wind turbines are kind of exciting. But when we looked at the bulk of our work, it was energy conservation. And it was, we're trying to figure out how to get the council and the mayor and the community actually excited about energy conservation. And one of the projects we did that really didn't have a good ROI at the time, it's much better now, but I'm sure you've all heard of or seen the Reno Arch, which is the most posted picture in all of Reno. We went and replaced the 2,000 plus light bulbs in the Reno Arch from incandescent to LED, which dropped them from 15 watts to 2.5 watts. LED bulbs at the time were quite expensive. That was part of the Governor's Office of Energy grant. So the ROI on them wasn't great, but it was a very visual impact of energy efficiency. So we actually got the grant. We replaced all the bulbs with LED, and we got the governor or the mayor out there in a bucket truck, putting in the last LED bulb with a big crowd around it, so that everybody could understand what energy efficiency is. Not because the solar panels and the wind turbines are easy to see, but having them see what a conversion from incandescent to LED is fantastic. And we got, I mean, the ROI was not good, as I mentioned, but it ended up being much better than we thought, because the Reno Arch, we change out the light bulbs for special events, like to go green for St. Patty's Day. And whenever we do that, we lose about 25% of the bulbs. And then we also in wind events, which we get quite often, the whole thing oscillates and we lose about 10% of the bulbs. So once we went to the LED, we didn't have any of that problem. The only problem we have was people climbing up the arch and stealing light bulbs. But
they too thought you had a good solution, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, great to have the mayor involved in those notable picturesque moments, for sure, to get supported. It is interesting that the meat and potatoes, the things that you really, really need, it's hard for people to appreciate. I guess that's why some people have begun to start eating their dessert before they have their meal. You know, Jason, I've often shared with people that if they had all the money and ample time and your sort of expertise, that they do this work on their own. You know, help us, the audience, think through, you know, would you use ESPC again?
I used it 2 more times after that. So it was so successful at the city that we use it for the regional wastewater treatment plant, and did major upgrades there, including replacing our biogas engine that had failed, and the systems that create the biogas that feed into that engine, creating the methane.
Right.
And then when I got to the city of our Washoe County School District, I used it again. And the thing I think that kind of sticks out to me is, if you look at all of our other capital projects, we mostly run them through a CMAR process, which is the
Construction manager at risk. Yeah.
Yep. So, you get a fixed price, and this is the work you're going to do, and this is what we're going to pay you, and you're responsible for it. And that takes a lot of the responsibility off of our own staff. So similar to the City of Reno, but at the school district, we just didn't have that many project managers to do this level of work. So going this route, we were all familiar at the school district with CMAR because that's how we've been doing our schools for several years now. But it's the turnkey approach. You tell me what you're going to do, you guarantee a price for how you're going to do it, and you're responsible for it. And then I need you to guarantee the savings, and then we're going to step aside, and we'll look at it as we go. But really, we know what we're getting up front, and if anything fails, you have to write us a check, or you have to come fix it, or both.
Yeah, it's a great testimony, Jason. I really appreciate you sharing that. When I think about the City of Reno, a couple of questions have been posed here. How many total facilities were in that program?
It was, I apologize, it was either 51 or 53. So we did all of our city buildings, we did downtown lighting, we did renewable energy, we had a few solar panel installations, we had some wind turbine installations, and one thing I kind of missed was the swimming pools. We had the sports facilities, so we went in and did the boiler improvements and pool covers and at the swimming pools, but it was 51 or 53, and I apologize, I'm a little hazy now.
That's quite all right. It was a few years ago, right? What year was it?
We started in 2008 and we finished in 2012.
Yeah, but for our time, looking today, what's going on, grants and incentives, and still the need for efficiency and being a good environmental steward, it just was such a great match story. So if that was implemented in 2008, 2009, somewhere in there, it's likely still delivering savings. So the city may or may not even be making payments, but I just want to pose for you, because we know this happens. If a new city council member had come on staff and you were there and they said, well, we know that you did this work and it looks like great work, but we want to know more about the history and the back, where would you go to find that information today?
Me. Sorry.
So you're housing the institutional knowledge, right?
Yeah. I put everything in binders, but I was over there 9 months ago and all the binders are gone. So it's, yeah.
Yeah. So, when
I'm not trying to brag in any way, but there's nobody left who actually did the project except me.
No, we get it. In fact, that's once again part of the reason why we were so excited to have you share your story, because you're not unique in this. We see this sort of change and turnover, and I, for an ESPC nerd like me, planning on 20 years of M&V reports, and I know there'll be new council members and new mayors, and all those questions will come up. I always think of stuff like, well, okay, maybe you can find the contracts because somebody thought that they were important. Where are those meeting minutes or the investment grade audit meetings and presentations where decisions were made? And hearing you just say that that may not be available, right?
Well, I kept copies of them all, so everybody who's replaced me since emails me, and I dig up a copy and send it to them.
Well, it's always good to have a great resource. So the last question I have along those lines is, did you ever need to provide a summary report of what the projects did, or, you know, what the end result? Because people knew when you started and they saw the mayor on a boom truck, but all the impact of the project, how did you roll that up and present it?
I actually did an annual report to the city council as far as the status of the projects and the status of financing and the payments and where we were as far as project results and savings to date. And during the project we did at the city, we actually required the ESCO to build a website so that everything was available online. So you could see the data, you could see the savings. Anybody could log on to the City of Reno website and see what we were doing and see what the costs were and the savings were. And we also put all of the training videos on that site. So with each ESCO project that was our energy conservation measure, there would be a video that we could archive for staff and staff turnover, so they would know how to deal with fixing, you know, the new boilers in City Hall. And we posted all of that to our public website through a dashboard that we had the ESCO create and link into our website.
Yeah, that is just an awesome credit to you and your forward thinking. So shifting gears a little bit, and frankly, thanks to the United States Department of Energy's investment and the skill of our friends at LBNL, this solution was created that we talk about as eProject Express, as a free, secure, web-based repository of that summary information and all the ongoing data, as well as the files that you were bright enough to maintain on your own. And we've shared a little bit with you about EPX. Just wonder if you'd share with our folks, you know, from what you saw, could that have been value to the City of Reno in that project?
Oh, very much so. I mean, that's, I thought the dashboard that we built would be there forever. And by putting it in EPX, it would have been a much better solution because, as I mentioned, they shut down the website at City of Reno. I still don't know why, but they did. So that data, I'm not entirely sure where it is at this point in time, to be honest with you. And I think it would be much better to put it into a database like you all have, where there is a repository. And as you know, the state of Nevada has that requirement now, where we have to post things into it. So since I moved over to the Washoe County School District, one of the requirements from the Governor's Office of Energy was that we post everything into the database. Luckily, I was able to put that into the contract and make the ESCO do all the work for me, so I don't have to do anything. But putting it in one place, where specifically your place, where it's always available, would have been much help for the City of Reno. Fortunately, we're doing that for the school district, but yeah, I'm not sure where that data for the City of Reno goes once they drop the website and they got rid of my paper binders. So I think it's the perfect thing to do.
Again, Jason, your comments are invaluable to our users, folks that are engaged in establishing a system like this really can't hold a candle to the sort of credibility you bring as an end user. So thanks on behalf of our audience in so many ways. And the insight of the system was just as you purported it to be, that if you're going to pay the ESCO to do the balance of the work, then as a part of their contract, we know that end users like the cities and states and local units of government that have joined us as attendees would want to put that requirement in their RFP, in their subsequent contracts, so that working with their ESCO partner, all that summary and detailed information can be focused into a single place. So thanks again for sharing your insights there. Before we jump to questions and answers that might be in the Q&A portion of the website software here, Liz, would you share a little bit more about eProject Express? I think we can get you online here.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think I can just share my screen and do a very quick little visual demo.
That'd be great.
Okay, great. Let me do that. Let me share. Okay, so we've offered training webinars on eProject Express, and there are some recorded videos on how to do things and an introductory training webinar, and that's not what we're doing here today. We really wanted to hear about Jason's experience, but I did want to show you a little bit about what eProject Express could do for you. So basically, it makes it easy to collect, store, and access, your vital project documents and project information, much of which you might need well into the years of the performance period. There's tracking of your project results and also some quick reports that you can do. And it's free for all users, customers, their ESCOs, public sector, private sector, municipalities, state, local, etc. So U.S. Department of Energy with funding from, funded Berkeley National Lab to develop eProject Builder, and that's the website that you go to. And it's been very successful for the federal government, but we did learn that state and local folks needed something that was a little more tailored to their needs. So we did develop eProject Express much more recently. We also call it EPX as a streamlined way to use the same system. So it's a streamlined set of fields that you enter into the system, that you report out, just because state and local didn't have all of the need all the bells and whistles that the federal government projects do. I guess, Dale, do you want to say anything else about sort of the value of EPX from your experience before I dive into a demo?
Well, I think there are just two sides of it. Whether it's a change in city council members and you're trying to dig up information while fulfilling your regular job from the past, or you can also look at this from the ESCO's perspective. I mean, we were given the opportunity to interview a number of folks to help develop eProject Express for this marketplace. And what the ESCOs told us was, they'd be 4 or 5 years into the performance period of a project, and the owner, their friend, the owner, the end user, if you will, would reach out to them and say, hey, the mayor wants a report next week. And I got to tell them what we did and how we did it and how it's working today, and if it's really paying for itself like it was supposed to. And I need all that stuff dressed up into a spreadsheet and show me some graphs. And the ESCOs are like, well, wait a minute. No, nobody knew we were going to have to do this. So they, just like any other practitioner, have to start digging through information. Let's see which energy engineer was working on this and where's my M&V group. Oh, assembling all that data is hard. So they too were delighted at the opportunity to pull it all up into a summary that the owners, the end users could access and create their own reports. And really help be the partner that they were intended to be.
Thanks, Dale. That was helpful. So I will just kind of walk through a few of the things that we touched on earlier with Jason talking about his projects and the challenges with, trying to find data later if someone needed to do that. So when we land on the website, you get a menu here, and if you choose up in the upper right, you can go to the EPB menu if you want, but we're going to focus on EPX. EPB is eProject Builder, which has It's the same system, but it just has more fields that you can deal with and enter. So we'll look at eProject Express. And the first thing I want to do is look at the all-important documents section that we talked about. So we can look at, I don't know, I'll look at a test project here. So let me go back, I did that pretty quickly. If you have several projects and they're in eProject Express, you'll see it on your portfolio page. I'm logged in as a customer, and this shows the projects that I'm the PI, that's the project initiator on. And this is a bunch of test projects, so we do different things. I'm the project builder on that one, which is usually the ESCO role, or I might be the project initiator and project builder on a project. These are, again, tests, but mostly if I'm a municipality, I'll be the project initiator, which means I initiate the project in EPB. We've got an assigned ESCO and we know it's happening, and I just initiate it very quickly. It takes about a minute to initiate, and then there's an empty shell of a project that the ESCO then uploads data to. There are videos on this whole process, how that works. I'm not going to go into that now, but I do want to show that when you're on the dashboard and you have a project, we click on the name of the project from the portfolio page, and then we have some choices over here on the left. The one I want to point out is project documents section. So I'm going to click that. Right now, this project has no documents uploaded to it yet, but I'm going to show you this file checklist here, which both the project initiator, which is usually the customer, and the project builder, usually the ESCO or the contractor, has access to. And so if I click this file checklist, it gives a recommended list of documents. Dale, do you want to say a little bit about the documents in the file checklist?
Sure, Liz, thanks. Now, once again, it always seems simple to go find the contract. Some legal group in a legal department will have that, but you may be several years down the road and need to see something like, you know, who witnessed this test, or where's the M&V annual report? What are the material changes that occurred 2 years ago when we added that wing, and how is that managed? Or where are the meeting minutes where somebody agreed to a different change in schedules than we had originally established? And when we talk to people on both sides of the practitioner's role here, whether it's the public sector or the private sector, they always scratch their head and say, well, I had that stuff for a while. And in Jason's case, we lost the folders, or in others, IT needed some space. And so they just eliminated what we had labeled as archived, even though instead of like a traditional construction project where I might need information for a year, I really wanted this information for 10, 12, 15 years. So we put together this list and intentionally to be as comprehensive as we could. The utility bills that built the project, the meeting minutes, separate contracts, the financing agreement, all of it. Put it all here. And trust me when I tell you, if 500 megabytes is not enough, just reach out to the lab, Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. They'll make you a little more space. But it's simple, easy for everyone to have an electronic file cabinet for all the salient information that they need.
Right. So, for example, I'm just going to upload a file that I have handy, an M&V report. You can upload those files. You can make some notes about it. M&V report year 2. And you can upload any kind of document. You can do Word. You can do, you can do a zip file that's full of photos, JPEG, etc. So there's, you might want to have construction photos. You can scan PDFs of notes if you want to upload those sorts of things. And this stays with your project for, the years of the performance period. And if you happen to have turnover, you can simply, your organization has turnover. Someone at your organization knows you're using eProject Express. You can contact us and we will transfer your project to the new person.
So Liz, I just want to weigh in on that pre-construction, post-construction pictures, photographs, if you will. Wow, how important is it when we've all lived through this? If you haven't, you may in the future, where somebody 5 years down the road questions, well, now, how did you take an energy savings on the actuator for fresh air? We already had the actuator. We know it all worked. Well, here's the picture where the linkage was broken when the investment grade audit was done. And of course, if you don't have it here, we're not sure where you have it. And it's always interesting when the naysayers, the skeptics say, well, you know, it's a bunch of trumped up savings. No, no, no. We'll show you the pictures. These are the documents. This is the recorded, archived information that proves what great work performance contracting has done for this project.
Right. So, so that's the documents section. I do want to go back to our project dashboard, and I can just do that by clicking, let's see, actually I am on the project dashboard, so I can just go there. And so I do want to point out that this kind of gives you a cool summary. There's some other information here that's very useful, single project kinds of reports. So if you want to just do a summary of the data that's in your project, right here, it's a very compact information. And this is basically all the data fields that are in eProject Express. There's project identification information, finance contract terms, the interest rate, the finance term, who your utilities are, and what measures were entered or what measures were implemented in this project. They're just some check boxes here. What are the list of sites? What was the, you know, the consumption before the project? And then down in the far right is project capitalization here. The lower right here, the projected results summary. So there are, you know, you've got the estimated savings, the guaranteed savings. So whatever you as the municipality decide that you want to ask your ESCO to enter in eProject Express will be here. You know, I mean, verify that they entered it, you check it in the system. Again, there's training on how that works. But it's here, and it's here for the duration of your project whenever you need it. So you can download this report if you'd like. Another key report is the M&V report. So let's say this project has been in the performance period for a few days. I click the M&V link over here, and I go to my M&V summary page. And this is a cover page for a lot of information that's behind these. So
Hey, Liz.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, but just in the event that someone wasn't a full-on ESPC nerd like me, M&V, measurement and verification. So this is the scientific validation that the savings that were projected to occur that caused you to agree to do the work have been scientifically proven to have been achieved. So unlike a traditional capital construction project where just getting the work done was enough, here we get the work done and somebody proves that the savings are achieved year over year. That's M&V.
Thanks, Dale. I'm sure people in our audience appreciate that too. So this just basically gives us a snapshot of where we are with the measurement and verification. And what's nice about the eProject Express measurement and verification section is it gives the ESCO a chance to provide you, the customer, with a really compact summary. So any of you out there who are experienced with measurement and verification, you know, it's, you know, many, many pages of the engineering that was done, you know, what equipment they measured, what they found, that kind of stuff. But this is a very compact summary of what a particular M&V year looks like. And then we have a cumulative as well. So I can show you what one M&V year looks like. And we can also download that information. So I'll show you what that looks like. Let's see, let me open that up. So this is just a quick report that you can get on a particular M&V year in eProject Express. Let me open that up. So again, this is not all the measurement verification information that an ESCO will provide. They'll provide very detailed reports, and you would do well to have an owner's representative help you understand the M&V reports if you don't have the technical staff to do that, or the bandwidth sometimes, right? So it basically gives some project contact information, project identification, so you know what projects they are, and then what savings were actually achieved. And it also includes information if you are a city that has greenhouse gas goals, which many do. You can also track your annual verified emissions reductions. And coming soon, we're going to have some guidance on a new tool from the Environmental Protection Agency called ESIST, the ESIS tool. And it provides a step-by-step way for an ESCO, for example, to take the verified savings or even the estimated savings for a project and get the EPA's assessment of what those emissions reductions are. So we'll have that coming in the M&V module very soon. That'll make it a lot pretty easy to get, to figure out how many CO2 savings did we really get for this year of this project. So that's the M&V, that's an annual M&V report. So this is for one particular year. This is performance year 2 of this project. There's also a cumulative report. Let me go back to the M&V page by clicking the button there. So I can download a cumulative report by clicking this button and saving it. And I already downloaded it earlier, so I'll show that to you as well. Let me open that up. Let me make that a little bigger so you can see that on the screen. So this is a very handy snapshot of year over year what's happening with the measurement verification of your project. So for example, we can see that, year 1, the guaranteed savings were 1.9 million and the estimate over 2 million, and we met the savings. And year 2, they exceeded, and I think we need to make it so that that variance comes out, and if you exceed them, you'll see a positive over here, and if you didn't make it, you might see negative over here. Another real important piece of this report is this status. So we can see that, well, okay, looks like year 1 was approved. That means the ESCO entered it and I, the customer, reviewed it. But oh, looks like year 2, the ESCO entered, but I have not yet reviewed it and approved it. So just grabbing this report, when you need to, kind of gives you a snapshot of just where you are in terms of the M&V each year for your project. And we're getting a little short on time, but I did want to show you a couple of things that you can do with your portfolio. So if you do have multiple projects, or even a couple, you can export all of the data for your projects if you want. And I won't show how that works. And then the other thing there is we have a custom reporting feature. So if you click the analysis and reporting button at the top, you can start building custom reports and grab the fields that you need. Good place to start with that is using the report library, which has some standardized reports. So for example, I'll just look at the project summary, click the little plus button, I can run this report, and it's just giving me a little summary of my projects that I can export as a table. And if I want to edit it as a new report, it'll show me what fields are in there. And again, we have a training video on that, so I won't go into too many details, but let's say I just want to, let's say I want to just get rid of one of these. I don't need all these fields. I'll remove project, that project builder organization. I'll rerun the report. And then if I like this report and it's one that I want to run again and again, I can simply save it. And I'll say project summary 1. And we took out the project builder organization. I save it. And voila, when I go back to my report library, I've got a saved report.
So Liz, am I to understand from you that if I was responsible for delivering an annual report to my city council or to my supervising authority, whomever that might be, I could have established this format. The ESCO would populate it with new information every year per the requirements of their contract. I could simply click on my saved report and I would have produced the annual report for council?
Right. Yeah.
Wow. How's that for a time saving?
It comes out in a spreadsheet, so if you need it in a slightly different format, and also if you're doing plotting things, you can do a plot, but you can download PDFs, you can download your Excel files and then put it into your reports in whatever format you need. So the information is all there in your preset report. So, and that is the end of my demo for now. I want to make sure we have a little time for more Q&A at the end.
Great, thanks, Liz. And I was checking to see if other questions. I errantly talked about using the chat and understand that the chat feature is disabled some technical way, but Q&A is available. And looking at the questions, I think we've addressed the ones that are there. So I'll make another petition for those questions and a little bit of a summary. We do want you to recognize that there's a host of training opportunities for how to use the system that are all available in EPX online so that you can use them at your convenience. We recognize the extraordinary value for having a free, national, secure, web-based system to allow this to occur so that only password-enabled individuals from both the ESCO, the participating ESCO, and the owner have the ability to see, manage, and report this data. It really can provide a very awesome ability for you to keep up with these projects over time.
Right. And then there's all those other resources that DOE offers. I mean, we're part of a team that offers a lot of resources. The Department of Energy has a lot of resources on its energy savings performance contracting toolkit. There's just so much out there to help you. So you could reach out to us. You can reach out to the Department of Energy at these places. And gee, I don't know if we have a link here, but yeah, eprojectbuilder.lbl.gov help. That's the page where you can get all the resources and training materials and the information to contact us. And if you just go to eprojectbuilder.lbl.gov, that's where you can register for an account. But feel free to reach out to us with questions about your specific situation or, you know, things like that. We're here to help.
Yeah, I would reinforce as well, just sort of drive home one of the points that Jason made. You know, as end users, as the public practitioner in these projects, two things. Number one, for most people, they start at a chasm of information difference between the energy services companies, what they know and the experience and expertise that they bring to bear. And perhaps you as a public entity who have, you know, 1,000 of the things on your plate and not the time, not the money or the expertise. We encourage you to take a few moments, walk through these podcasts that GESPCU can provide you, if not the answer to your question, the kind of questions that can help you ensure that you have the confidence to move forward with the awesome tool we know as performance contracting. PCNRC, we continue to have a whole host of federal and state folks working to pour the right information into that as a common repository for additional information, and some new things that will be joining PCNRC as time goes on that we're excited but limited in our ability to share. Finally, at eProject builder.lbl.gov at help, you can find all sorts of things, including our next time, if you will, our next EPX time that we've carved out for October the 18th, same time, and a registration link there where we'll really address more of higher education and how the system works and impacts them and their projects. So thank you all for joining us today. And once again, Jason, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and life experiences. They mean so much to our audience who's trying to learn more about how they can leverage energy efficiency to fulfill their goals.
And I would say, I mean, you can share my email address with everybody. It's jgeddes@washoeschools.net. I'm happy to answer any questions directly and help out in any way I can with all of y'all.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us. We wish you a great balance of your day. Bye now.